The war over the price hike of domestic airfares is far from over, as the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has plans to sanction airline operators for what the commission describes as an alleged price fixing. While it seeks to investigate the allegations, airline operators in Nigeria insist there was no collusion on the prices. On the program, an airline pilot and a former airline operator believes the investigation is critical in the face of anti-competition rules. That's our main theme on the program. Plus, leading female aviators in Nigeria and beyond come under the celebration spotlight as the world marks International Women's Day. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. I'm Bukola Jo Oketumbi. Global aviation recovery is being led by airports and aircraft lessors. In most countries, airlines are lagging behind in recovery, and Nigeria is not exempt.
We are being accused of raising fares. Some people even said that we are a cartel. We want to make bold to say that airlines of Nigeria never got together to increase their base fares. It never happened. The 50,000 you have seen on our inventory has always been there. For the last 5 years, 50,000 fare has always been there. It's a matter of you working out your unit cost per seat of your operations. What is the unit cost per seat of your operation? That will determine your basis.
That's the Vice President of the Airline Operators of Nigeria, insisting there is no collusion on airfare charges. But this is one statement the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has refused to believe. And just last week issued an interim order prohibiting the sudden hike in the price of airfares by domestic airlines. The Executive Vice Chairman of the FCCPC, Babatunde Rukera, said the order will remain in place pending the outcome of its investigation into the matter. But are airlines likely to abide, as the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority remains the sole regulator of the aviation industry? According to the boss of the Consumer Protection Commission, the FCCPC and the Civil Aviation Act have implementing regulations of both legislations to respect the rights and prerogative of airlines and other businesses to set their fares independently, subject to and in accordance with prevailing law and applicable processes. For the regulators, the cost of operations is also soaring.
A situation where your aircraft is AOG, that is aircraft on ground, you import the spare, and you cannot clear the spare, running into weeks, is unknown to aviation anywhere in the world. So we plead with Nigerian Customs to please see to it that the ease of doing business is being engendered in this country.
Not a lot have been done, domestically to see that airlines can have favorable and sustainable operations. That's left to be seen, because there are some critical infrastructure deficits and issues that need to be sorted out.
While other airlines have reflected changes in fares, Green African Airlines maintained its existing fares between 33,000 naira and 38,650, but has progressively increased its fares, rising to approximately 47,000 on its Lagos-Abuja route. Many experts believe the FCCPC should allow the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority to take charge of this issue. Price fixing negates anti-competition rules and should be investigated, but airfares will rise in the face of soaring airline operations costs. That's coming from our guest, the former managing director of Aero Contractors, Captain Ado Sanusi. He starts by telling us why airports across the world are creating room for airline recovery.
Because the lessors and the airport operators would like to see more recovery done so that they will have more business. Because if the airlines are healthy, they'll go and lease more aircraft, and then they will fly into airports. So what they are doing to stimulate this recovery, they are reducing lease rentals in some places in the world, and they are reducing airport charges. Some airports are even giving free landing and parking, just to stimulate the growth for these airlines so that they can come back to pre-COVID-19 period. And I think it's a good thing to do. And every economy has a way of stimulating growth. Whenever you go into recession, there are ways, policies, and things that you put in place to stimulate coming out of a recession. The pandemic is like, it's more than this recession. It's something that we have never seen in the aviation sector, and of course, all other sectors. First, the FCCPC have come out to say the airlines should revise their fares. I keep saying price increase is inevitable because there's a lot of factors that affect price tickets. And I keep saying that the way and manner the airlines increase their fares is what I think should be investigated. But to say that they shouldn't increase their fares, I don't think it's fair on the airlines. Now, my opinion is the FCCPC should, in conjunction with the Nigerian NCAA, with the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, should set up a committee, a joint committee, to go and investigate whether the airlines actually fixed price. Because this is anti-competition. We are in a capitalist society, we have free economy, and we encourage competition. So I don't think we should leave that and say, well, it's just the airline. It is extremely important for us to investigate, find out if there was no connivance, then it's a free economy. I mean, the price increase will adjust to make sure that the consumer pay the price. Now, if there is connivance, I'm sure the Act, the 2019 FCCPC Act, has provision for the responsibility, the alleged conspirators of increasing the tickets will have on them. If you look at advanced countries, let's say United States, they have the Sherman Act. The Sherman Act is very clear. If there is any antitrust or there is price fixing by either an individual or group of individuals or group of corporate entities, the penalties are very clear. $100 million for companies, and up to $10 million for individuals that come together to fix price, or 10 years in prison, or both. In any industry, there is one regulator. So the FCCPC should then tell the Civil Aviation Authority, of course, the finding, which the NCAA would have been party to it, to see that, yes, there was connivance, and then they will now have to get the penalties to the airlines. But as globally, it's going to have a huge impact. In fact, beyond what we're thinking, beyond the price of fuel, beyond the prices of gas and everything, jet A1 and everything, because the crude is increasing. Look at the whole thing. The idea is there are some airspace that are closed now, and we are not allowing Russian airplanes to come out. That will affect, globally, that will have a very negative effect on the aviation industry, because some of these flights that are going into Russia are now canceled. They are moving Russia out of the global booking system. There are so many things that will affect the aviation industry. Even some of the leasing companies are from Russia. Some Russians, some rich, wealthy Russian companies own some of these leasing companies that especially lease to Africa. And of course, because of the sanction, these companies will not lease. And some aircrafts that are owned by Russians, of course, now they will be grounded, or they will be trying to hide them so they can't come into the market. So definitely there are a lot of ripple effect that will come up, especially after this sanctions that have been implemented on Russia.
Newsflash takes off with the federal government's plan to put in place airfield lighting for the 2.7-kilometer, 18-left 36-right domestic runway of the Murtala Mohammed Airport, which was recommissioned in 2008 after refurbishment and rehabilitation without runway lights. After years of complaints by domestic airlines and the listing of the runway as one of the 16 reasons why flights are delayed, it would seem that something is in the pipeline. Just recently, the Federal Executive Council approved the sum of 3.52 billion naira for two different major projects on facilitation and airfield lighting.
We got approval for the supply and installation of 2 sets of complete high-capacity passenger security screening systems for the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, and the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja. There was also approval gotten by the Aviation Minister for the approval for the supply and installation of airfield ground lightning materials for the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, and the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, and also the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport in Kano.
Still in the country, Qatar Airways has enhanced its presence in Nigeria with the launch of 4 weekly flights to Kano and 3 weekly flights to Port Harcourt, both operating via the Nigerian capital, Abuja. Qatar Airways will also operate to the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport in Kano State. Kenya Airways says it expects a 20% rise in revenue this year as it battles to end losses in its passenger business and recover from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The airline, in which the government has a 48.9% stake, saw revenue plunge by half at the height of the pandemic in 2020 as carriers around the world were forced to ground their planes.
January, February has been a bit challenging, but we truly believe if you look at forward bookings, particularly during the summer, they're very promising. So we hope that this trajectory will improve, will continue this way. If I am to take a good guess, I would think that we would replicate our increase, so it will be another 20% increase to last year. Now, this is conditional on there being no further disruptions and restrictions of travel because of Omicron. It's important. The other one is that we hope that there will be no disruptions because of Kenyan elections, because traditionally we've seen a disruption, a downward trend in terms of visitors. And August, which is when the elections are going to take place, is bang in the middle of our what we call high season.
However, passenger revenue grew by 21% in 2021, helping the airline narrow its loss by a fifth during the first half of last year, but it still lost 11.5 billion shillings, which is about $101 million during the 6 months.
Airlines come together. What are they trying to do? We're trying to create scale so that we overall reduce the unit costs of aviation. That has happened in the US, that has happened in Europe. The problem has been here in Africa. We are busy squabbling and setting up little airlines everywhere. That is not sustainable. It's a good thing, it's a prideful thing to have your own airline, but it's not sustainable. So the thinking behind our relationship, our partnership between us and South African Airways is what we call consolidation, not merger. Because merger means that you come together and form one airline. That's not what we want to do, because we believe there's a place for Kenya Airways and there's a place for South African Airways.
Kenya Airways had slipped into insolvency long before the pandemic, mainly due to an expansion drive that saddled it with hundreds of millions of dollars in debt to finance the purchase of new planes, followed by travel warnings in 2013 due to insecurity in the country. Aviation consultant Sibri was hired last month to advise on returning to profitability, and its report is expected in the next 3 weeks.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine will not have a dramatic impact on airline bookings in Eastern Europe, and this was the earlier position of Ryanair boss Michael O'Leary.
This occasion planned a number of weeks ago where we launched
The CEO said all flights to Ukraine had been cancelled for the foreseeable future, but he hoped the airline will return.
We do want to see the Ukrainians succeed. As I said, we will be the first airline to return to flying to Ukraine whenever we are told it is safe to do so. We are the largest airline flying to and from Ukraine, and as soon as we can return there, we can return and become, again, the largest airline flying to and from Ukraine. It's the first time, I think, in about 30 years that we're taking any cargo in the belly of our plane, and to the extent that we can ship as much, whether humanitarian supplies generally, medical supplies, masks, PPE, food, etc., we will continue to fly that as best we can into those Polish airports and try to facilitate and help where we can. We remain committed to keeping low fares in place. Again, I think we have a lot of flights where we have Ukrainian families travelling with us now on our Polish flights to destinations all over Europe to meet up with friends and family. We're going to keep the fares low in all of those, the close-in fares low on all of those routes. So there will be materially less capacity. I think 10% is a reasonable guesstimate this year, and that is what will drive, I think, higher fares into the peak months of June, July, August and September.
Staying with the Ukraine issue, sanctions isolating Russia's aviation sector in a similar way to Iran and North Korea is likely to have a greater consequence given the bigger size of the Russian market and its high dependence on Western suppliers in recent years. Russia accounted for around 6% of global air traffic capacity in 2021, according to aviation consulting firm IBA, up from around 4% in 2019 due to the strong relative performance of its domestic market during the pandemic. About 515 Russian jets with an estimated market value of about $10 billion are rented from foreign firms. With the Russia-Ukraine crisis far from over, 300 Jewish immigrants who fled Ukraine following Russia's invasion have landed at Ben Gurion International Airport near Tel Aviv. The immigrants, many traveling with young children, were welcomed by Israel's immigration minister. Interior Minister Ayelet Shaked said Israel, which is a population of 9.2 million, was bracing for a very, very big wave of immigration sparked by the Russian-Ukraine conflict. This could entail taking in more than 200,000 Ukrainians who are Jewish or have Jewish family links and more than 600,000 Russians missing.
Now to Hong Kong, where the once bustling international airport appears still, deserted and transformed. Staff here are decked in blue protective overalls complete with face masks, glasses and visors. Some of the walkways and gates have been cordoned off and now serve as PCR testing and waiting zones. At numerous checkpoints, travelers must submit proof of vaccination, a negative COVID-19 test, and their quarantine hotel booking after passing through passport control and baggage collection. Travelers then join a bus queue to be transported to their quarantine accommodation, but not before luggage is sprayed with disinfectant. Hotel check-in at one quarantine location in Hong Kong Island took place in the loading bay, overseen by staff in hazmat suits. Guests were handed a quarantine rule book and other information needed for the 2-week confinement, including a leaflet on mental health and suicide support. Plastic wrappings covers draped the bed, phone and television remotes, and the windows are locked shut. Guests cannot leave their rooms at any point and must undergo nearly daily testing for COVID-19. While Hong Kong clings to its zero-COVID policy, frustrations in the city are boiling over. Workplace morale is hit hard, and families are split as a growing number of people, especially expatriates, abandon the global financial hub. Hong Kong saw a net outflow of more than 71,000 people in February, the most since the beginning of the pandemic, according to government data.
Ja, toch overal heel veilig
In celebration of Women's Day, Zara Rutherford and leading women in the Nigerian Air Force are on the spotlights. British-Belgian teenager Zara Rutherford became the youngest woman to fly solo around the world. On January the 20th, she became the first person to do so in a microlight plane after a 5-month, 5-continent odyssey in her sharp ultralight. 19-year-old Zara Rutherford landed back at an airport in Belgium after flying 51,000 kilometers over 52 nations since her August 18, 2021 departure. Cheers and applause went up as her plane came to a halt on the tarmac.
It's just really crazy. I haven't quite processed it, I think. I mean, coming here, I was basically in tears, just trying to imagine what it'd be like to finally be home after 5 months. And even this flight wasn't easy, so I'm just super happy.
To meet the criteria for a round-the-world flight, Rutherford touched 2 points opposite each other on the globe: Jambi in Indonesia and Tumaco in Colombia. The teenager said the last leg of her journey from Germany was tricky.
I've been waiting for the sandwich that's like from a sandwich shop that's like really nearby, and I've been waiting 5 months to get it, so I'm really looking forward to getting it. Coming out to Frankfurt, there was a lot of rain, a lot of snow, but yeah, so I had to wiggle in some valleys, and I had to wait a while as well to wait for the snow to clear. But yeah, it worked out clearly because here I am. So.
Having gained a pilot's license in 2020 after training with her father since 14, she now wants to study engineering at a US or British university from September. And now she has a framed Guinness World Record certificate in hand. Rutherford dreams of being an astronaut and hopes her voyage will encourage women in science, technology, and aviation. Finally, we also bring some highlights of air women in the Nigerian Air Force. From the first female officer to attain the Air Commodore position.
Maybe I can say the sky was the limit. As long as we are able to study, to work hard, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve within your profession at that time.
To leading female pilots.
I am Squadron Leader Blessing Liman, first female pilot of the Nigerian Air Force.
I am Flight Lieutenant GC Nwobubu. I am my coursemate Flight Lieutenant OS Ijelu. We are the first female regular combatant pilots, and I'm also the second female captain on the King Air 350.
And other leading ladies breaking the glass ceiling. We salute the giant strides of leading aviation women. Let's keep breaking the barriers. I'm Bukola Jo Kitumbi. See you next time.